public interest.
Thank you. James Daly.
Thank you very much, Chair. Could I ask, Minister, what is the Government's current plan in relation to establishing offshore processing centres if Parliament approves the measures in the Nationality and Borders Bill?
Well, thank you, Mr Daly, for your question. The point that I would make is that through the Nationality and Borders Bill, we reserve the right to proceed with an offshore processing arrangement as just, again, I make the point again because it bears repeating, as one part of a wider package of measures to try and deter these illegal crossings and to render this route unviable. What I'm not able to do is give a running commentary around negotiations or discussions that we may or may not be having in relation to what that policy looks like.
But from that answer, Minister, you clearly feel that the establishment of offshore processing is a positive step in addressing the problem that we have at the moment. It is something that we should do.
I think that we should rule out no options that we are progressing through the bill at this stage to tackle this issue. We have to stop people putting their lives in the hands of evil criminal gangs who are taking greater and greater risk in their vile trade. And as I say, I cannot provide specifics about discussions or negotiations that may or may not be taking place, but I do think this is an important part of our policy.
Can I ask Mr Omani a question? If offshore processing was a step that was taken by the government, how would that work? I'm not asking which country, I'm asking how the process would work.
I think probably Mr Hobbs is better to answer that question.
Thank you. So, as the Minister said, the government is looking at all options. In terms of if we were to seek to process claims either under UK legislation or an alternative jurisdiction, we would have to screen individuals for their appropriateness for transfer, and then there would be a mechanism to transfer them to that territory or area and have their claim processed. Again, it would come down to the individual negotiations and agreement with any individual territory on exactly how that would work and what the long-term outcome for those individuals would be.
I think it's also just worth adding there, to be very clear about this, that we will only work with safe countries and they must be compliant with their 1951 Convention obligations.
Can I ask a separate question about the CPS prosecutions that you just referred to, Minister? Could you tell me what the public interest test is that the CPS will be considering when considering whether a prosecution is appropriate or not?
Stops, would you like to come in on that?
Yeah, thank you. I think it's the standard test that any CPS decision is in terms of whether it is in the public interest. That's a decision for them in terms of prosecution about whether they think there's a realistic prospect of conviction. It's a well-established CPS which they take in any criminal prosecution decision.
Okay, and what, from the evidence you have of the Crown Prosecution Service generally, what gives you the confidence, Minister, that those decisions are going to be made and these decisions will be made in a timely manner? Many people currently facing all sorts of offences are on release under investigation and bail for many, many, many months.
Well, I suspect that this House, through the remaining of the stages of the passage of the bill and, of course, in the House of Lords in due course, will make very clear what Parliament's intentions are in relation to this. I think that is, of course, important. And all of us would want to see cases dealt with in a speedy manner. Again, I would make the point here that the policy is directed at evil criminal gangs responsible for what is a vile trade. And I think all of us would want to see those individuals brought to justice as quickly as possible. And that is absolutely in the public interest. But we will, of course, monitor this closely.
I was going to ask some questions regarding returns, but I think you've addressed all of those. But just finally, as a wrap-up, Minister, you said that you want a speedier system. You said that you want these matters dealt with in an appropriate way. It's clearly not working at the moment. Could you share with us some of the things in terms of the asylum process in this country, when people have come into this country, that the government is going to do and put in place to ensure that process is speedy, fair, and addresses the concerns that the public have?
Well, Minister Foster is responsible for that side of the immigration system predominantly, but perhaps I could again bring Mr Hobbs in just in relation to the transformation programme that is in place in that area.
Thank you, Minister. So the new plan for immigration, of which the bill is part of, is looking at end-to-end comprehensive reform. And so there is work already underway in terms of how we look at productivity and resourcing of the asylum system, as well as how we use data and caseworking management. The bill also provides for greater streamlining of judicial and appeal processes for removal cases. It looks at the provision of legal aid to support people to make their claims in a timely way, and seeks to have a one-stop process so that you expedite the system and ensure people are able to bring the evidence so that the government or the Home Office can make the decision on any protection claims, be they for asylum or referrals for modern slavery. So there's a range of work both in the operations and in the policy and legislation that seeks to streamline the whole process.
I would just to pick up on that very briefly, if I may. I mean, I've been in post now for 2 months, and it is absolutely clear to me that there are very significant challenges in our asylum system at the moment. I would agree with the Home Secretary's assessment that the asylum system is broken. We are determined to get to grips with this. I think the measures in the bill through the one-stop process are important in getting us to a better place in relation to this, but also getting to a stage where claims are considered quickly, but that we also end this constant cycle of appeals and efforts to frustrate removal, which are unacceptable.
Unfortunately, your initial decisions are